So I guess I took up the mantle to maybe explain what it means to you. Because I guess if you sit here and do nothing, is your job going to be automated, or do you want to take control of that and look at how can I use AI in my career, in my department, and look at create efficiencies? So part of my role is to disrupt EY. And as part of that, I'm looking at data. How can I have data to be more trusted? More trusted data means, one of the use cases would be being able to use that within an AI system, know where it comes from, the provenance, the permissions. And so I think one of the takeaways I'd like you to leave is when you start to think about how can I adopt AI, and going to that broad statement, it's really to understand, well, what is your problem statement that you're trying to solve? Is it voluminous information that you come across on your daily basis? Is it you're trying to get inferences from contracts? So look at the problem statement, and then look at the value proposition that you're looking to build from that. And then decide whether you want to work with a vendor or whether you want to try to work in-house, because there's implications, especially around IP, especially in this current market, and being able to be able to speak the same language. So I thought it'd be interesting just to take a use case that I've come along on both sides, working in legal and also working in the data office, of looking at a contract tool. So I guess we all look at contracts, if you're in legal or even data protection, on a daily basis. But if you increase that by 400,000, 500,000, and let's say you're trying to look at, does this contract have standard contractual clauses? Does this contract have an ability to use the data for benchmarking? And maybe in the future, it'll be, does this contract have an explicit reference to be able to use the data for AI, which I think is not that common. Look at the problem, and then ultimately look at the current state of what you're operating in. And I think you'll quickly realize that there's efficiencies of scale if you're able to deploy a tool that could read through those contracts and take an inference. So that's the first thing. First, think of the problem and the current state. And then look at the value to automate, because again, it goes back to, is it 10 contracts, is it 100,000 contracts? And that should be able to build up your business case. And in any type of program, it's looking at your dependencies. And I feel this is often overlooked in terms of, you've got a great idea, you contact the team, you contract the vendor, your internal team, and you find lots of problems in the organization. It could be, it has a terrible data management process, in which the quality of the data is not great. For contracts, maybe you don't have a central repository of your contracts. Does that mean you're going to have to build something? And I feel in these types of projects, it's always looking at all the dependencies and look at, and it's just not going to be creating AI solution for one part of the puzzle. It's looking at the end-to-end and looking to automate sections of that puzzle. So ultimately, looking at the contract is not, potentially, it's not going to be able to enable an inference of, can I use the data for this? It could help you get there. So looking at all the different dependencies. So some would be contract repository, some would be the IP around the actual contract itself, data localization restrictions, information security. It's your standard risk-based framework. And then we get into training data, and I'm going to talk about later about some of the legal issues around some of the training data. So that's kind of, for me, is looking at the project itself. So in your day-to-day work, what is ripe for automation? Because ultimately, if you don't do it, then someone else in your company will come along and look at creating efficiencies anyway. And I think one recent example that's come out recently, because I've been looking at this for a number of years now, is you got ChatGPT, and everybody's talking about ChatGPT. And that underlying model is it collects data and ultimately repurposes that data. So a lot of IP challenges. But the underlying technology there is amazing. You can create private large language models. So again, in your area of work, you talked about contracts, and that could be any type of document that you could scan and develop predictive analytics from that. Thinking about, if you're sitting on a vast amount of data, let's say your company has 100 policies that no one's actually reading, a great use case would be to synthesize that, to be able to query that for questions. So any type of documents to review, any types of, if you're sitting on a large data asset in your department, if you're in risk, data protection, or legal, I think there's a lot of great use cases. You could sit in solution to the end of the day, but that's kind of what, through that mindset,